Talk to yourself the way you would talk to a best friend. So you would never tell your best friend,
"You're trash, you ain't shit, you ugly, you won't do this right, you don't know how to do anything."
You wouldn't talk to your friend like that. So why would you talk to yourself like that? Good day, good people. It's Chantel Sarita giving you all of the positive vibes. I'm here today to talk about what you're thinking about. What are you thinking about right now? No, like literally, stop. What are you thinking about right now? How about when you wake up in the morning? What are you thinking about? What about when you make a mistake? What are you thinking about? What about when you burn your toast? What you thinking about? All of that is super important. It's important to be attentive to what you're thinking about. So I have a story for you to get into it. As you know, I've mentioned this every single video, and I'm going to continue to mention it because it's what I'm working on right now, okay? As you know, I used to be a gymnast, and during my last competition, I was at the NCAA regional competition, and I was competing on beam. Now, I went with another teammate. We were one grade. I was one grade above her. I was a senior. She was a junior. Both of us qualified and went on to NCAA. So the way that it works is when you qualify as an individual, they don't put you together as a team. They just kind of put you with other teams that qualified as a team. So we were rotating with two different teams. I remember I was on the balance beam. By the way, I hated beam. Like, that was my least favorite event for multiple reasons. The coach, the beam, the coach, multiple reasons. We'll get into that later. But I was on the balance beam. This was my last routine on the balance beam ever in life, ever. And you know what I was thinking about? My teammate that was across from me on the floor competing at the same time. I was watching her compete rather than thinking about what I was doing. And you know what happened? I fell. What you think about literally dictates your actions. So I'm here to talk about it. Let's get into it. So in my last couple videos ago, actually, I was talking about how I channel mental strength in order to manifest my desires. So one of the things that I talked about in that video was noticing your inner dialogue. What I mean by that is being aware of what you think about. So when you're literally when you're doing everything, you're thinking. And whether you're aware of that or not, you're still listening to your thoughts. So if you're telling yourself, I'm stupid, I hate this sucks, I suck, you're listening to yourself and your body is responding to that. So my beam example is a perfect example of that. Another example, and I talked about this in a previous video on my old YouTube channel, so I'll just briefly talk about it and I'll link it up above. So when before I got to college gymnastics, I did what was called USAG gymnastics, which was like club gymnastics. I wasn't a gymnast in school, it was like an outside club thing. And it was very, very competitive. I practiced 5, sometimes 6 days a week, 3.5 hours to 4 hours a day, depending on if it was on season or off season. We practiced more for off season. Anyway, I digress. So I was on the uneven bars, which is the bars where you swing. I'll insert a clip here. And I was doing a dismount. So that's when you let go of the bar and you flip before you land and you finish your routine. When I was practicing the dismount, I remember thinking in my head as I was swinging to get ready to let go, I remember thinking,
oh shit, I forgot how to let go.
And I told myself, I don't know what I'm doing. And you know what happened? I held onto the bar way longer than I was supposed to, and I did what they call pulling in, which means my toes came up way too high, and instead of flipping away from the bar, I flipped into the bar, and I cracked the back of my head on the bar and fell on my back. That's just another example, and I know that's pretty extreme. I was okay. I was fine. Like, it hurt. It did hurt. It did hurt, but you know, that's another example of when you're thinking about something that's totally unrelated to what you're doing, your mind is focused on what your mind is focused on, regardless of what your body's doing. Your body listens to your mind. So I'm here to talk about it. Let's talk about it. So don't mind me, I have my notes over here. First things first, how do we notice what we're thinking about? So the first thing that I would suggest to do here is to keep a journal of your thoughts. and I know that might be a lot, but maybe having like set times where you're like, okay, I'm doing this one activity. Like, I'm a dancer as well, I'm a performing artist. So I did this activity for myself, actually. I was freestyling and choreographing a couple of days ago, and I took out my notebook and I wrote down some of the thoughts that I was having when I noticed that I wasn't feeling good. So here's a trick when you're doing this. You want to keep track of all of your thoughts, because it's cool. I'm sorry, it's good to like, I just had kombucha, don't mind me. You want to keep track of all of your thoughts when you're doing the activity, but the ones that are going to probably stick out are the negative ones. So the way that you even pick up on the fact that you're thinking about something negative, because a lot of times you're not even aware of that you're doing it, but think like when you're doing whatever you're doing. So say you're also a dancer, or say you are a writer and you're writing something and you all of a sudden feel bad, like you're writing or whatever, or you get stuck. That is when you notice, okay, what is it that I'm thinking about that's making me feel stuck? Because you're not feeling stuck for no reason. Another example, gymnasts do this thing when they're doing a skill. If they're afraid of it, they do this thing called balking. So if I were to do like a skill on the balance beam, and I'm doing a backflip, right? And I stand up and I'm sitting here and I'm getting ready to go, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm really bad at this. I'm gonna miss my hands. I'm gonna crash. I'm gonna crash the beam. What do you think my body's gonna do in response to that? Fight or flight, or freeze. And we did this thing called balking. So gymnasts just, sometimes when they do skills like that and they're telling themselves this, they have what's called a mental block and they balk. So they just don't go for the skill. So they're just standing there like this. I remember standing there like this trying to do a skill one time, a new skill that I was trying to learn, and I was scared and I was telling myself all kinds of crazy shit. I remember standing there for probably like 15 minutes. Just standing on the beam, feet sweating, scared. But anyway, like when you're feeling bad, or when you're stuck, when you're not able to continue on, if you're having a choreography block or a mental block when you're writing, or mental block when you're drawing, whatever it is, it's because you're telling yourself something that your body is responding to. So for example, I was writing out some of my thoughts. So some of the thoughts that I had, I'm not good enough. I can't handle this. People will judge me. You can't dance. And a lot of these things, a lot of these thoughts that you have, let's kind of rewind back into the source of it, because it's important to understand why you're doing these things in order to make a change. So when you're growing up, the first 7 years of your life, you are literally being programmed. So your mind is in a state of, I believe it's beta? Is it beta or theta?
Yeah, I'm both.
I'm gonna insert a little, you know where I'm going with this. So your mind is in a particular state where all you do is absorb. And I know you've heard this before. Oh, she's a baby, she's so absorbent, like she's just absorbing everything. Literally, you're absorbing everything. So if your parents are talking to themselves like trash, like, oh my God, I didn't take out the trash, I'm trash. Like, and you hear that, you're just repeating what they say, I'm trash. Or if you make a mistake and you draw, like you didn't know, because as a baby you're creative, right? You have a crayon and you didn't know you weren't supposed to write on the wall, but you write on the wall and your mom goes, oh my, you're so bad, you're so bad. You're thinking in your head, I'm so bad. And you're just absorbing all the information and repeating it to yourself. So that sticks with you. You create this program, and then by the time you're 8 and up, this program is already set. So you're just thinking all of these thoughts. When you make a mistake, you're punishing yourself over and over and over and over again. So that's why it's important to kind of know where it comes from. A lot of the thoughts that you're having aren't even yours. They're your parents, they're the people around you, they're your moms, they're your dads, they're Santa Claus, whoever it is that has an influence on you. That's the thoughts. Those are the thoughts that are in your head. They're not necessarily yours, which in that space, it's really empowering because you have control. So what do you do next? You take inventory of what you're thinking, right? Next, how do you shift it? Rewind. I began to do this when I went into school for my master's degree, and we were learning about how the mind works and how that affects your life. and I started to work with athletes. I started working with volleyball players, basketball players. I worked with gymnasts outside of my internships. I was just working with gymnasts doing choreography and working with them outside of that. And the main theme was, when you have negative thoughts, it literally hinders your performance. So I did this exercise with I think it was the volleyball players that I worked with, and I had them write down, or it was a team, right? So I split them up, and I had 2 people volunteer. The first person volunteered with their teammates saying all kinds of crazy shit. Like, so what they did was they wrote down, this is what they did. They wrote down negative thoughts that they have about themselves, and they wrote as many as they could. And then when they got ready to perform, I had all of their teammates shout out their negative thoughts that they were having. So like, I had them fold up the paper and pass it around and read it to each other, so they weren't reading out their own negative thoughts. It was a little less pressure doing that. But anyway, so they're all reading their negative thoughts while this person is trying to throw these little paper basketballs into the garbage can. When they're trying to do that, and their classmates are saying, "You're trash, you can't do this, you suck at basketball, volleyball, you can't even play, you can't even do it, you suck, like you ain't shit." The person who was getting those thoughts yelled at them, performed at a lower rate. Like they I know it's just like a little cute little exercise, but they didn't do as good as when their teammates wrote down positive affirmations and saying things like, "You were strong, like you're amazing, you're dope, you work hard for this, you're talented, like you deserve this." And when they had their teammates saying those things to them, they performed better. Shit you not, try this activity on your own, right? Like use your inventory and maybe record yourself saying all the negative shit, and then record yourself saying all the positive shit, and then do the little exercise. So you literally take some paper and ball it up, and then you try to throw it into the garbage can and see how you perform both times. See how many shots you get for both ones. You'll be surprised. So it's really important to make sure that you are shifting how you think. So how do you shift it? First, you need to learn what your values are. If you are a dancer and your values as a dancer are to create and to be free, you want to make affirmations that align with that. So I'm a creator. I am eclectic. I am abundant. I am audacious. So you're creating these sayings and these affirmations that align with how you feel you truly are inside. Or if that's not as easy for you, if it's difficult for you to pick up on what you want out of being a creator, or if it's difficult for you to say what your values are, pick someone who you are truly inspired by. So whether that's, for me, I really love Sean Bankhead. Like I love his choreography. I love how like chill but like hardcore he is, super dope. And knowing that those are the things that I like, the reasons why I like them is because those are qualities that I want to have, or that I already have, but I'm not allowing them to flourish. So think about someone who you admire and pick out the things that they're good at and align yourself with those things. So if you picked Beyonce because she is a hard worker, then call yourself a hard worker. Be a hard worker. Align yourself with the goals that you're resonating with. And once you are able to kind of pick and choose what things that make you feel good, you can replace those negative thoughts with the positive ones. And they're not just random positive thoughts that you just wrote down out of nowhere. They're thoughts that you put time into that really resonate with who you want to be and who you want to align with. I think that's really important to do. So like I said, pick someone who you admire and pick out the reasons why you admire them, and then write affirmations that resonate with you based on that. Because you resonate and you admire them and are inspired by them for a reason, because you either have those qualities or you're working towards them. So be empowered by that. Another thing is setting boundaries. So you won't have to cut yourself off a lot. You're gonna, when you first start noticing these thoughts, all I want you to do at first is just notice them. You don't have to do anything outside of just noticing that they're there. After you notice them, then you need to start replacing them with other thoughts. So first and foremost, telling yourself no. Like if you say, if, for example, for me, one of my thoughts was, I can't handle this. And I stop myself and say, no, yes, I can. I have more than enough time and energy to handle. I have more than enough time and energy to align with my desires, right? And that's something that I resonate with, something that I've told myself before, something that I've written down before, and it aligns with who I am. But the first thing I do is notice it, then I stop it. I'm not about to say that shit no more. And then I replace it with something that's meaningful, that I resonate with, that makes me feel good. Yeah, so it's really important to, be kind to yourself. Be your best friend. Don't talk to yourself. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to a best friend. So you would never tell your best friend, you're trash, you ain't shit, you ugly, you won't do this right, you don't know how to do anything. You wouldn't talk to your friend like that. So why would you talk to yourself like that? And again, regardless of if you're aware of it or not, when you talk to yourself like that, you're listening to yourself and you're responding to it.
So let's put this into practice. So let's say for the first week, you're going to literally just notice your thoughts. So for example, if you're a dancer and you are choreographing and you are feeling bad or having mental blocks, like choreo blocks, I want you to write down what you're thinking in that moment. And every time you feel not good while you're choreographing, write down what you're thinking and do this for a week. The following week, you're going to look at the list you wrote down, and then you're going to write the opposite of the thought that you had. So for example, if you thought I suck at dancing, you're going to write the opposite, but don't just write I'm good at dancing. Write something that resonates with you. Like, I work really hard at dancing, or I'm really passionate about dance, or dance is something that makes me feel amazing. And that's just the opposite of what your negative thought was. From there, the final week, you're going to start replacing those negative thoughts with the positive thoughts that you wrote down. Whether you write them on sticky notes and put them on your mirror so that you can see them every day, or you put them on the screensaver of your phone so that you can see it every day. And you're going to start replacing those negative thoughts you have during the day or when you're dancing or whatever it is that you're doing with the positive thoughts that you journaled down. So again, the first week you take inventory. The second week you change those thoughts on paper. And the third week you change those thoughts in your mind. Now there is another step to this where basically you're getting yourself to stop thinking those thoughts altogether. You're kind of giving yourself a cue to stop thinking those thoughts. It's pretty detailed, so I can go into that through my one-on-one coaching sessions, Clarity Talks. Click here to see more information about that.
So that's it. I appreciate each of you in your own individual ways. I hope you got some value out of this information. Again, I'm doing one-on-one sessions for creators, helping you conquer your fears and align with your goals. So if you're interested in that, there's a link in the description box with my schedule. I would love to meet you. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Sending you all the positive vibes. Until next time, bye.